the report of the committee to the president. So soon after that, a statement was issued that essentially told the Ghanaian public that CJ Torkonoo had been removed from office. Also, a warrant was signed for her, and then she was written to officially all today. And so as we speak, by virtue of the processes that have been activated and the processes that have been gone through, CJ Torkonoo is no more the Chief Justice of Ghana. My guests this evening are the Honorable Hassan Tampuli, who is the Member of Parliament for the Gushewu constituency and ranking member on the Deputy Ranking Member on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. I have Martin Pebu, who is a private legal practitioner, and of course, the Honorable Roxin Nelson Dapiamapo, who is Member of Parliament for South Dai, and also the Majority Chief Whip. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Yes, let me start off with you, Hassan. I mean, did this decision come to you as a surprise? I mean, the event started early in the early in the term of John Mahama. We saw the petitions, or we heard that 3 petitions were submitted to him. He forwarded it to the appropriate courts. The processes kicked in, and I conclude today. Are you surprised at the outcome?
Thank you very much. Good evening, and good evening to your esteemed listeners and viewers. So, I think there's no Ghanaian who will be surprised about the outcome of the committee's hearings today. The way it started in the run-up to the elections, about reset, and then the attempts probably to find a way to restructure the judiciary, and so on and so forth. Threats have been made, and if you recall, during the transition period, the Honorable Minister for Communications, had said that the president has to purge the judiciary. Honorable Sam George, he says some things to that effect. So it wasn't really a surprise when we heard that there were petitions, for the removal of Chief Justice.
But it wouldn't be the first time a petition was filed. Professor Azar filed a petition.
Against her.
The petition was dismissed a day before President Akufo-Addo left office. So it's not entirely strange that there'll be petitions against this particular,
No. As a matter of fact, this is not the first time a Chief Justice has been, threatened with the removal by way of some of these petitions. Just Lee Kingsley Akwa was also challenged in that regard. And that's where we have the case of Asari versus Attorney General and so on and so forth. Aban's, appointment, there was an attempt to remove him. There was an attempt to remove almost, a lot of judges. But the history is that the first time we ever had this situation was, I think, somewhere in 1963, when Osajefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah removed Seyaku Kosa as Chief Justice. And I think almost immediately he was detained for some hours before he was released as Chief Justice. The next time we had some of this experience was sometime, I believe, in 1976, when Kutua Champon was the head of state, SMC, and Azu Krab was the Chief Justice. I think there was some student protest, and the student made some demands to the effect that Achampon should quit office and hand over to the Chief Justice. And Achampon got infuriated. The next day, he removed Azu Krab as the Chief Justice, and then in his place was appointed Apalu, who stayed in office up until somewhere 1985. But Ghana has joined the ranks of Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Maldives as one of the countries that has removed their Chief Justice. Now, it puts it in very bad company.
But given the history you provided,
it puts us in very bad company.
This is not the first time. So Ghana has always been in the league of countries that have
Ghana hasn't been in the league. If you look at what happened in 1976, the removal of Azu Krab, it was under the military regime.
Aku Kosa was
all right. Aku Kosa was removed. Of course, we know what happened, during the First Republic.
But it wasn't a military
They could
regime.
remove almost everybody, all right? And now, this constitution provides mechanism for the removal of Chief Justice. And it provides that Chief Justice may be removed on grounds of stated misbehavior, incompetence, or inability to perform the functions of the office of Chief Justice by reason of infirmity of body or mind. Now, what is misbehavior? What is stated misbehavior? Now, obviously, from what we have seen, the fact that a Chief Justice's spouse traveled with her, all right, and earned per diem has now been added to what constitutes stated misbehavior. Seriously, I mean, this is ludicrous, highly, highly ludicrous. It appears that sometimes when we were in law school, they will tell you that in some instances, some judges will determine cases before they hear. This appears to be one of those things. The sin has been set for her removal. We now have to look for basis to remove her. That is what all these things are all about. Look, if a justice of the Supreme Court has misconducted him or herself, or a Chief Justice, or has engaged in a conduct which falls under the stated misbehavior, it is so palpable that you don't even need, to go into the nitty-gritties to know. A judge has gone to take bribe. A judge is drunk, all right, intoxicated, and sitting on cases. A judge is having some amorous relationship with litigants and staff, and so on and so forth. A judge is involved in perjury, corruption, morally reprehensible conducts, tax evasion, and so on and so forth. When you talk about these things, it's so easy for people to connect. But to say that a Chief Justice has traveled with the spouse, now mind you, what the allegation is about is that the Chief Justice ought not to have traveled with the spouse because it has not been provided for under the condition of service.
So the letter to her,
yes,
given the grounds you are stating,
exactly,
says that those acts constitute avoidable and reckless dissipation of public funds, and in the view of the committee, to have been occasioned by the overall head of the Judiciary and the Judicial Service, whose duty it is to guard public resources allocated by the government, is caught within the spectrum of stated misbehavior. So the point is,
let me tell you something.
You don't have to travel with your spouse or your child and make them earn per
such
diem
a very egregious
on account
conduct
of the state purse.
that the whole head of the judiciary, the third arm of government, should be removed. Let me tell you something. This Chief Justice, even if she had crossed the red light, traffic offense, she would have been removed from office. Of course, you understand what I'm saying? She's already been penciled to be removed. So whatever it is that would have been used to remove her from office.
So are you saying that the fact that the husband or her spouse and her child benefited from state funds in a manner that the committee felt they shouldn't have benefited is not enough to occasion her removal?
It is de minimis.
So what should have been done? We should have forgiven.
No,
we should have forgiven them.
And something that was not available to her, she could refund. And we have seen people
if that's the case, everybody could go do something wrong and you refund.
Appear before the Public Accounts Committee, public servants in different capacities, and then there is surcharge, and so on and so forth. You'll be asked to refund the money, and so on and so forth. So I'm not too sure the Chief Justice set out to more or less engage in acts of corruption.
But we don't know that, do we?
No, we do. Some people appear before the committee.
And you know what they
give
said?
Testimony on her behalf. Of course, some of these things, like before the release of this statement, somebody like Captain Smart, I chanced upon it on TikTok. Captain Smart was reading copiously from.
I didn't hear him.
I saw it.
I
saw exactly what Captain Smart was reading from, and it is the same portion.
So the point is that
you understand. So these matters were already known that this is what we are going to use to nail her. Whether it makes sense or not, we just have to find a way to nail her. And I think this is a very sad day for our democracy. It's a very sad day for our judiciary. Our judicial independence is gone. Look, if you can delete the Chief Justice the way that he has been deleted. Now, other justices of the Superior Court, High Court judges, Court of Appeal judges, and other Supreme Court judges, and even Circuit Court judges, I mean, they'll be so scared that, look, what would I do and not incur the wrath of the powers that be? If the Chief Justice, when the threat was made to remove Aban, his colleagues stood by him. All right, justices of the Supreme Court, they stood by him when Ghana Bar Association went to court. when there was an attempt to remove Justice Kingsley Acquah. His colleagues, when the matter went before, they stood by him. She didn't get the protection from
yeah, but is it not strange that in the
Supreme Court.
instances you have mentioned,
I don't
their
understand.
colleagues stood by them, but in this case, it didn't appear so?
That is what I don't understand.
Because their
Because you
colleagues
see-
were on the same bench together, almost appointed by the same person.
Because
Were
you
there
see-
together, and so perhaps it's an indication of how they saw her or what she did whilst on the bench.
You know,
Justice Aban's colleagues stood by them.
yes,
Apalu's colleagues stood by them. And the examples you've mentioned.
precisely.
So is it not curious that in this particular case, Justice Torkonoo's colleagues on the bench did not turn up for her?
No, so one is not too sure about exactly what is happening, but what is important is that the personality of the person shouldn't be the reason why you should stand by the person, but the principle.
Yeah, but
Because if the
personality violates the principle, you don't stand by the person.